Today we journey into the heart of the 2024 BRICS Plus Summit in Kazan, Russia, a pivotal gathering that promises to reshape global economic dynamics. With important countries like Egypt stepping into this collaborative arena, we will explore how this summit serves as a powerful platform for unity and growth. As nations come together to share insights and forge partnerships, and the potential benefits of BRICS Plus could transform the future of trade and cooperation for all members involved. Welcome to Think Tank.
Соответствующие подтверждения получены уже от более 3 десятков государств, включая наших ближайших соседей и партнеров.
يعقد هذا المنتدى في وقت يشهد العالم فيه تحديات وأزمات دولية متعاقبة وغير مسبوقة.
БРИКС уже играет заметную роль в глобальной экономике не только сегодняшней.
Leaders from BRICS nations and emerging economies gathered in Kazan for BRICS Plus 2024 conference, focusing on global challenges and collaborative solutions, with a strong emphasis. This conference marks a pivotal moment for enhanced international cooperation and a resilient future. Let's delve into this report to discuss the most prominent issues discussed at the BRICS Plus 2024 conference.
The BRICS Plus 2024 conference held in Kazan, Russia, gathered leaders from Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, Egypt, the United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, and other nations, alongside representatives from the United Nations, African Union, and Shanghai Cooperation Organization. This year's conference aimed to strengthen partnership and address global challenges through collaborative strategies, with a primary focus on expanding BRICS membership. Over 30 countries expressed interest in joining, prompting discussions on criteria for accession to enhance regional cooperation. Food security was a critical theme, driven by recent crises related to climate change and geopolitical tensions. Member states committed to developing strategies for sustainable food supplies, sharing resources and best practices. Digital trade also featured prominently, as delegates advocated for enhanced e-commerce and innovation to build a robust digital economy. Energy cooperation was another focal point, with discussions on renewable energy projects aimed at sustainability. The conference emphasizes environmental responsibility, committing to initiatives for emission reduction and ecological preservation. Health issues, particularly epidemic preparedness, highlighted the need for shared information and expertise. Egypt's President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi held side meetings with various leaders, discussing bilateral trade with China, regional stability with Russia, and support for Palestine. Talks with Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi focused on cooperation in technology and agriculture, while meeting with Brazilian President Lula da Silva centered on economic partnerships. The conference established a roadmap for future cooperation, prioritizing sustainable development, technological innovation, and shared governance, aiming for a more interconnected and resilient global landscape.
For more analysis of the BRICS Plus Summit and its political and economic implications, joining us from Beijing, Dr. David Chin, Research Fellow and Advisor for Special Projects, the Charhar Institute, and Upamanyu Basu, Assistant Professor of Political Science from New Delhi. Good evening to you both, gentlemen.
Good evening.
Now, Mr. Basu, BRICS Plus carried economic and political messages. In your opinion, what were the most important messages?
Thank you so much for that question. Actually, from India's perspective, you see, there were five clear points that even our external affairs minister had. The first one was obviously, which was strengthening and expanding the platform's independent nature. This is per se with reference to the Western understanding of that BRICS cannot be looked as an alternative of United Nations, obviously. BRICS has always been used as a push factor to address the grievances of countries in the global south. So, for India's perspective, also one of the major criterias was of fighting for membership in the UNSC as a permanent member, and also to try and understand how United Nations or West-led bodies of global governance can be changed. Talking about global governance, even some pointers were also mentioned about reforming the established institutions, not just on global governance, but also in multilateral development bank structure. Here comes the idea about BRICS own bank, which is the NDB. The last 2 points were mostly about democratizing the global economy, correcting most important points with respect to India is also China's positionality in BRICS. So India is cautious about China's own intentions about expansion of BRICS. So Kazan summit was pretty important in that factor, but the sideline conversations that in Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Xi Jinping had was also something to be congratulatory in with respect to New Delhi's diplomatic circle, that at least some level of Indo-China border disengagement was also talked about. So this is not just happy for other countries in global south, but also a very important country like India trying to manage its own conflicts with a major contender within BRICS, that is China. So these are majority of 5 points that I can address at this point of time.
Yes, indeed. And you spoke at the very end about a very important point here, which is the border issue between India and China. We'll speak about that later. Dr. David, from your point of view, what economic opportunities do you foresee for newest members of the BRICS?
Well, thank you so much for having me here tonight. I think at the BRICS summit, we really stressed the importance of building a global financial safety net. And in terms of economic opportunities, I think it's first that very important that we address the damage and the importance of stopping unfair unilateral sanctions by countries. And I think with a unified voice, the BRICS Summit have provided a very firm stance on such issues. I would say there are three key pillars of the summit: the regional political security, the economic partnership, as well as the people-to-people exchange. And within the economic partnership, in the summit, there were several key points mentioned: the importance of AI and technology, importance of food, especially food safety, building a BRICS mechanism for grain exchange. That's very important, and as well as energy cooperation. So I would say this is a very important platform. And more importantly, I would say this is not to go against the multilateralism, the framework proposed by long-established institutions like WTO, like the IMF. Instead, it's actually to support lateral frameworks, also to reform.
Yes. Mr. Basso, you spoke about a very important issue, which is the border disengagement with China. And from your point of view, how do you view the role of the BRICS in reshaping global political and economic dynamics?
That's actually one of the major points at this point of time, that BRICS cannot become another SARC for South Asian perspective. And that's why the interrelationship between big countries and one of the most important countries like India or even Russia at this point of time, or China, the interlinkages is very important for the success of a multilateral organization like BRICS. So right now, BRICS, the expansion, after the expansion as well, it's in a nascent stage. They have to still discuss what will be the role of the partner countries or even observer countries, the new members, what their roles will be. It's in a nascent stage, but at least these forums are being used like countries like India and China. After 5 years, Narendra Modi and Xi Jinping are actually meeting, and that is in a BRICS summit. That itself says a lot about the importance of these forums, where they are actually used for to discuss about conflicts where traditional forums are not being used, like UNSC, for example. So here in the communique as well, you saw that there were mention about the Middle Eastern crisis, mentions about Ukraine, a bit dilutely maybe. More conversation was about what was happening in Gaza, but at least some level of diplomacy is working, and that is the beauty of BRICS at this point of time. That countries like India and China, irrespective of the border situation at this point of time, where disengagement is being talked about, there have been military buffer zones that is created even right we speak at this point of time. But this is a welcome note that after 5 years, at least a conversation is happening. So that is a good point, at least.
Very important points that you spoke about here. Dr. David, let me get back to you here. And how can BRICS change the shape of the global economy? Because economy is becoming very, very critical at this very particular stage.
For sure. I think it is quite crucial that the countries in the global south work together. And I think at the summit, although maybe building a BRICS currency would be quite challenging at this time, but it is important that we are using local currencies in the bilateral exchange, at least, between the trade and partnership within the BRICS. To get rid of the influence of the over-dollarization of our current global system. And as our colleague said earlier, setting aside the difference between India and China on the border issue, that's also a very positive reflection, because there's no development without peace. So peace and security comes hand in hand. And I think that's where BRICS shine as a multilateral framework.
Mr. Bissau, in which ways can BRICS facilitate greater cooperation among its member countries at this stage and in the upcoming one?
Yeah, I think at this point of time, if you see the way the community can be understood, I think the other guest has also mentioned top 5 points. The future is that the West won't be able to stop for these kind of regional collaborations coming up. But countries like India, which are placed between the West and the non-West here, if I can quote, maybe countries like Russia and China in one block, countries like India plays a very important role in the future of the global economy, and also how you can position the countries in the global South. This is not a World War II situation or a post-World War situation. You're living in the 21st century, where the institution should also look like the 21st century, with equitable distribution, equal voices, and inclusive structures. That is the beauty of blocks like BRICS. That is the beauty of that. Even in just few hours ago, SCO summit that culminated, you saw that India and Pakistan are sharing a stage even after so many differences. SCO being a China-dominated bloc, BRICS being a China-dominated bloc, but still you see that countries like India, Brazil, Russia, South Africa, and now other four members are joining the stage. Iran, controversial country, still joining the stage in a bloc like this. So you cannot stop blocks like this from emerging, regional collaborations from emerging. And this is a message to the Western-led infrastructures, Western-led global governance structures to try and mend the established United Nations model. The drawbacks of such models have made China and Russia create their own models in that way. That is the vacuum that has emerged. So in that way, maybe we can look at these new emergences.
Dr. David, one of the issues that emerged from the BRICS Plus 2024 was the unified currency. Now, how might a unified currency among BRICS nations affect trade patterns in the region?
Yes, I think I actually addressed this point earlier. I think at this stage, the creation of a unified currency is still facing challenges. Not because the countries don't recognize the importance of this, but it is with the different level of development within this country. It is hard to employ a universal currency. But I think, as I said earlier, we can at least adopt local currency in between the trade and partnership in between BRICS countries, so that they are less influenced by the exchange rate and other factors.
Well, we'll get back to you, gentlemen, but now let's shift our focus to a compelling infographic that highlights key insights from the BRICS Summit, titled BRICS Summit Shaping Global Economic Futures. So stay with us. Well, welcome back, and back to you, Mr. Basu. And how significant is President Sisi's participation in enhancing Egypt's position within BRICS?
At least at this point of time, it is creating a good platform because of the current geopolitical differences that the country is facing. I think with respect to Modi as well, or Xi Jinping, we can obviously argue that Xi Jinping will be the Chinese premier for the largest time now till he's alive, and Narendra Modi's latest victory as well. So at this point of time, I think the major contender is that the political stability around the borders of these countries, how Russia positions itself as sometimes a conflict mongerer, but also supporter of territorial sovereignty with respect to India and Pakistan, how China position itself with sovereign questions, and the new members, obviously, how it positions itself with the Middle Eastern crises. So these are major points that will be coming up in the next analysis, I think, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Dr. David, from your point of view, how can Egypt leverage its agricultural and industrial sectors in the BRICS or within the BRICS framework?
Certainly, I think the BRICS is providing new financial vehicles, new economic partnerships for countries like Egypt. It is quite important that Egypt and other countries in the region have a say on an international platform like this, especially along with other global South countries. And I think it's important to reiterate that this is not to go against the current global order. It is supplementary to the current order we have. And in the declaration, all countries stress the importance of upholding the UN Charter, respecting sovereignty, as well as enhancing the green development. And I think China, with its mode of development, can actually benefit the other developing countries like Egypt with the new technologies China can provide.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Basu, from your point of view, Can we further discuss the importance of the Global South cooperation during this summit?
Yes, BRICS by default is a representation of the global south. Earlier, actually, I thought I heard Xi Jinping. I'm sorry, it was Sisi. So earlier that the position of how China uses BRI in entry into Africa, the way it has been using BRI or Xi Jinping's flagship initiatives like GDI, GSI as well, is just a way of looking at how member countries like within BRICS, like China. Here, I'm using China a lot of times, mostly because it is a country that needs to be studied and analyzed far more as compared to the others, because it has a history of not abiding by quote unquote international norms or morality here. So that's why countries like India has not been comfortable with China's position in these multilateral forums. Also, that's why India has always tried to be a protector of the identity of global South. That's why it tries to expand G20, for example, the recent New Delhi declaration. It tried to be the leader of the G20. In SCO also, it tried to say things in a very moral way. In BRICS as well, the words that they are choosing, maybe in a sideline meeting with Xi Jinping, is that countries in the global south needs to be represented. But here, for a very long time, China has done that job. But now countries like India, which are closer to the West, are trying to do that same thing in a much more nuanced manner, maybe not being as adventurous or quote unquote anti-international liberal order. So that is how maybe the conversation about these regional blocs will be much more interesting. And lastly, about I think the previous question about India and Egypt, the same.
Actually, we were speaking about the South cooperation, and definitely India and China are of the biggest and old partners of the BRICS. But we brought up Egypt because it's a newcomer. We're speaking about the BRICS Plus, the 2024 BRICS Plus conference, and this is why we were speaking about Egypt. When we are speaking here, we're speaking about the South cooperation altogether. Mr. Bassam, we'll get back to you, Mr. Bassam. Dr. David, what strategies should Egypt, as a newcomer in the BRICS Plus, adopt to increase the exports to BRICS members countries?
I think it's very important for countries, including Egypt, to note that this is BRICS and other initiatives that are being seen these days are now creating a new camp, as in with the Cold War. They are not trying to align countries with each other. It's very important to note non-alignment. Instead, they are encouraging countries like Egypt to cooperate with other countries in the global south on issues that benefit their own countries. Functional issues. So that doesn't necessarily mean by joining BRICS that we have to be on the same page on all issues, and that's not actually possible. We're only asking each country to contribute and to cooperate with each other on issues that can benefit their own. So it's very important to know that we're not creating new camps that are confronting each other. Instead, we are seeking cooperation and partnership on issues that address the key interests of each country. And especially for Egypt, I think the financial safety net that BRICS can provide is very important.
Yes, indeed. That was Dr. David Chin, Research Fellow and Advisor for Special Projects, the Charhar Institute, and Opemanyo Basu, Assistant Professor of Political Science. We thank you both, gentlemen, for joining us today. And the commitment made during the summit signals a new chapter in international cooperation, from tackling food security to advancing digital trade and renewable energy. The road ahead may be fraught with complexities, but the strategic partnerships formed at this conference have immense potential for growth and development. Let's remain hopeful and engaged in fostering a more equitable global economy. Thank you so much for being with us, and we are looking forward to bring you more thoughts-provoking discussions in our next episodes. Many thanks for watching.